My name is Timothy, and this is TA Garage. A little chilly out today, a lot of snow and stuff. Getting back on Daytona and getting ready. I gotta vacuum this out. I got a rough idea how I want to do it. I'm gonna still kind of look at it, make sure that's what I want to do. This is kind of where I'm.
Alright, so this whole portion of me where I'm trying to section this thing out, I have a new floor pan behind me. It's a full, complete floor pan of where the seams go from the front seam to where it comes up over the rear seat, or under the rear seat and gets up over the axle. It splits about halfway in there and then it drops back to the back. And with a Charger, you can't just stick this whole floor pan in the trunk with the trunk lid opening. Like you could a Roadrunner or Cornet or Satellite. The trunks are a lot smaller, especially in a Daytona, the way the opening is and everything. So it makes it a lot harder. So the actual proper way to do a floor on these is to take the lower rear valance off, which is the part below the front or the rear taillights. It's where the license plate goes and what's behind the bumper and where the bottom part of the car shows underneath the bumper and the reverse lights mount into. You have to pull that panel off. You have to drill a lot of spot welds underneath the panel, about 2 rows of it. One goes to the back of the floor and the other one goes to the taillight panel. So I ended up having to take that off anyways because it needs work. And you can slide a whole floor in through that way. What I ended up doing is I left about 6 inches of the original front between the 2 wheel wells. And then grafted the new pan from there. I left the new pan seams and everything. I got rid of all that. I later found out that the outer floor pan slash quarter panel drops, inner quarter panel drop-offs. They were bad, but they were mainly bad where they mount up to the back of the cross member. Those were rotted. The left side was fully wiggling in there. The only thing holding it was the quarter panel. It wasn't tied to the frame of the car like it's supposed to. And the only way to fix that is you have to pull that rear valance off because it's behind that. And it's also behind the corner. There's a little corner piece that mounts the quarter panel that gets spot welded on the inside of the car. And then it goes behind, and then the other part gets welded up behind it. And you'll see that later. But I ended up just doing this right, pulling that rear lower valance out, drilling out the spot welds, pulling that whole panel out, taking all the floor out except for the front strip, and I just butt welded to that. And then slid the floor in through that way. I left the quarter extensions and used that to line up my panel a little bit better. Once I got that in place and found out that everything lined back up, putting on the rear panel and making sure it was all lining up, then I started working my way out on this car using the quarter pan or the floor pan as a new alignment. And it's just one of those things. Turned into bigger, but it ended up, in my opinion, being faster at the end route. Just to cut it out and redo it the proper way.
Alright, so it's been a couple days. I don't know if I explained a whole lot what I was doing last time, but I was breaking the spot welds and everything. As you can tell, I did not drill these out because I knew this metal is thicker and it's stronger, so the floor pan, which was thinner, was going to give. So I just let it rip through. Now in the back here, where I was 2 pieces of sheet metal, the same thicknesses, I will drill them out. It helps a lot, which a bunch of this is rotted, which I'll have to replace. And there's a little bit over here where it was getting thin, and I couldn't help with it. The 2 tools that I like doing this with, this is like my favorite body chisel. I have no idea. I know where I got this. I got it a long time ago from a flea market. I think we paid like $10 for it. I've sharpened it once I did put a nick in it here. But that was mainly because I was cutting something. I was trying to spread it open and then I cut it. And it's basically kind of like a flat chisel. I don't even know what this... When we bought it, I think it was listed as blacksmithing or railroad chisels. There was a little bit WRC or something like that. P. I don't know. The other tools had the same marking. I guess it's pretty hardened, but it's not like super hardened. I have abused this thing quite a bit on some things I shouldn't have, and it's been held up. What I like about it, it's more of a flat. And then at the end, I think I reshaped it. I don't remember. I think it had like a double where it had two ends that went to one. I believe, and it may have been this way. I know I put a little bit more of a sharper edge and put a slight bevel on this side, but you can kind of keep it on the panel that you're wanting, and you can like use it. So if you're getting more of an angle like this, I'd flip it. Like let's say I was trying to, there's a piece of metal that was riveted on top of this, like down here in the frame rail. I would start it off here with that bevel, and I'd get it in between, and that would get my edge started. And since I could stay pretty flat over here, I kept it this way, and I was able to kind of move it up a little bit. And I choose to let it rip the top part if I had to. Try to save and less bending on the metal. Now, for the other example, I was under here. Like going across here, I'd find the spot in the middle just to pop it up and stretch the metal. And I could find these a lot more because it would indent. I'd flip this around because I had the metal sticking out here when I folded it up. But I can hammer it in there. That bevel edge would ride up on that frame rail, and that would bring it up, and I would take it out, flip it, and then cut it. That's the way I did it. Bring it up, and then bend it up, and flip it. Or come in like that, bend it up. This way, once I got it rid up, where I can get this under there very well, then hit it and go through. That worked pretty well. Well, whenever I started getting to this thinner stuff, taking the big old sledgehammer to this, I would recommend eye protection and gloves for both of these. Because I haven't had it yet with this, thankfully. But you want to keep these kind of trimmed down because they will shear and stab into you, and they do not feel good. Then I have an older air hammer. Something bought at an auction. It was like $5 for like a set of stuff. Just regular straight. I'm pretty sure I grounded on this. And I did the same concept. Flat edge. Like this, the one-sided. Because that way I can bias the one. You're not really wedging it and bending it. You can bias the one side and rip the one side off. Which if you're usually doing this, one of the pieces is bad. And that's what helped me save. Even though this is all kind of like thin and I wanted to protect it as much as I could, so I used it on the one side and tried to bias shearing and ripping it off for the one side. But sometimes you can't help it. This was so bad it started ripping it. This is kind of good for that light because it's a lot of light. It's still hard impacts, but it's a lot lighter. And you can kind of do a lot lighter and it's a little bit slower, but you can be precise with this. Or you push it too far and go through the piece you're going to. Or trying to protect. I've done that a couple of times. But that seemed to work better for like tighter areas like this. To where I could get the piece off and cut it. So for an example, like this back edge here. That had, it was like an 890. And you had spot welds here, plug welds. Or, no, spot welds. This way, and then it was spot welded here where my thumb's at. The way I did that is I cut as much of this flange off as I could that went to the floor pan. Bend this up, and then I'd hammer this bottom side. Once I got that, I'd get it from the top side and just kind of slowly wedge them out after I drilled them. The bottom side I didn't drill because this plate down here, this cross member, is thicker. So it has more ability to handle than what this piece does. So this is, and I was biasing cutting on this piece and ripping this piece up, prying more on this piece. So it would give more, especially that. You are taking a risk at it of accidentally hitting this piece or something. Then the back side I drilled all the way through, gave my best chance, and just kind of pried it. And some of them I was able to drill completely, and some of them they're still a little bit connecting. Can't get rid of it unless you drill a big hole. So that's kind of the two tools that I use. Of course, just a random little mini sledge type thing, 5 pound. I don't even know what it is. It's heavy enough it moves a chisel. But that was kind of the process of that. And then I just kind of cut a rough idea of the floor pan, trying not to cut too deep in the frame rails. I still got to do a little bit of trimming and stuff like this over here I need to repair. I thought I might have had a patch piece for this that I could have used, but I don't. And I'll probably have to build a little piece of angle over here to fix that piece. Then what I may do a little bit for now, because I'll fix and have to go, so I don't have a whole lot of sitting time and getting started on something. But you leave all these spot welds, they're not smooth anymore. You have some of the sheet metal still welded to it, and then you have some of the dimples. Sometimes you can shear it right off and you don't even notice it. But I like to take a flat disc, and either on a grinder would work, or I haven't tried these before. I usually got a bunch of these that are smaller, like 2-inch. These are like 3-inch. I'm going to try these, see if my little air tool will handle it. But I feel like this is going to be too much for my air tool, and I may have to end up getting a bigger air tool. I don't know. It is a little weak even with the 2-inch. But inside the frame rails look good. I vacuumed a bunch of this out. I'll definitely be cleaning a little bit out with the wire brush and giving this a good little coating on the inside of the frame rails. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of sand some of these little spot welds down, get them kind of flush. Do a little bit of cleaning, seeing what's bad and what's not. Get more of a rough idea. Oh. A little thing that I picked up a while ago was in a junkyard, and it was literally the only thing left of it. 69 Charger, quarter panel piece. I think I paid like 50 or 100 bucks for it. The guy, it was a big story piece, and that's the only reason why this is the only piece of the car that was there. It's because it was set off to the side. But whenever I was pulling this off, and this is the driver's side, it still had the extension piece that was in good shape. It is bent, but it's not broken or anything, it's just bent. And then this trim piece is in really good shape. And it also has the patch panel, so I don't have to do a bunch of bending in this critical dipped area to cut out, and I can use as a patch for this piece, hopefully, right here. That way I ain't got to create all that. And it came with this molding piece that I need, because the other one, the ear of it is snapped off, and this one's actually pretty good shape. Definitely a good driver. Because the other one, the little ear, which I'll probably fix it, but I'll probably end up using that one, cleaning it up. And that has the extension panel, which is pretty bent. I'm going to see if I can straighten this out without breaking it, but it has the pieces all on it, and I don't see any cracks on it. So I may try to figure out ways to reshape this back. May have some other ones, but I want to see if I can save that one. If I could, new ones are like 200 and something bucks, and yeah, I'd rather spend that money on more critical areas right now. As far as the rest of this patch panel work, I'm probably just going to be making it from scratch. So yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup, get some of these spot welds sanded down, and kind of get that cleaned up. until I gotta go. Get a little bit of time. Every little bit of time you can put into a project is how you get them done. A little bit at a time will get you down the road a lot sooner, and it keeps you going. It keeps you doing something. Just keep doing something. The best thing I can tell you on a project. I'm going to try to get this done and quit yapping, and I'm going to start sanding. Well, that escalated a little bit more quickly than I wanted to, but I got my reason. I ended up pulling the rear lower valance off. I think that's what you call it on this car. Which I think I can save this. I do have another one, and I have a whole rear end, but I don't want to. I'm kind of robbing the parts off it, and I don't want to. It's for a future project, but I'm going to more than likely end up robbing the floor pan extensions, and that's because mainly this side over here is completely rotted loose from this, and this is all rotted back in here. Well, I'm also going to have a new set of these more than likely I'm going to use. I do need lower quarters, so this is the time to do all this and be done with it. I do have most of the pieces. I don't have lower rockers or lower quarters. The other car, I have full quarters, and I am not cutting those pieces off. I'll either make some from scratch or buy some, which I really don't want to. But I have these, and I have these. And more likely I'm going to go ahead and use them. Because this side's pretty rough, and then that side, by the time I get it pulled apart, it's just going to be better off. And really, this is when you would do the lower quarters, because you would need this piece off to get in behind here to get to these mounts, which this side is almost completely rotted off. That side's not doing much better. But this side was still tied in, and it wasn't as big of a deal. But it will also save me some work here, because where that line is, I'm going to cut all the way up to the wheel well, do the same thing over here, cut all the way up to it. It's not that bad, but it'll save me of time of having to weld those pieces in and grinding all that down. I can just grind the spot welds down and grind the spot welds down. Those weren't really bad, but I think will end up saving me time in the long run. This side was going to be pretty rough because I was going to have to patch. Wasn't even thinking about this part being broke loose from there, but it's rotted here, rotted there, and then rotted up there. There'll be quite a bit of patching. This side's not that bad, but I'm here, and I'm doing all this. I might as well replace that one piece, and then I can do the caps and everything. So that's kind of my plan. I'll just have to buy these later for the project. Kind of wanting to get this car done, so this would be the quickest, I think, way to do it. Hardest part was just drilling a bunch of those spot welds out. If I have to, I'll replace this, but I'm going to try to save it. It's honestly not too bad, but by the time I cut this out, that out, and then might as well beat it straight again. I don't know. They're also not that expensive. So that's another thing about that. That's not really that bad on the price wise. These ain't too bad. These little boogers are expensive. But I have them. And the good ones. So I'm going to use them. This is the one car I want to do pretty much decently right. So I'm here. I'm this far. It'll make the floor pan instead of me having to do a little cut. So, get to try to fit in there. I can basically cut the front off and then stick the whole thing in there. And pretty much done. So, went a little bit further than what I wanted to, but I think in the end all, I'm going to save a little bit more time. It ain't too bad to take the spot welds off and stuff, so I'll have to look into what I'm going to do with the lower quarters. But yeah, by the time I would have patched all that up, it would take too long. And this car, it deserves it. So, and it's worth to do it too. So I'm going to do it. But yeah. I'm going to go eat and I'll get back to it. Alright, so it's another day. Got the frame rail and the we seen last. I was doing the paint, another coat on the frame rails on the insides and the trunk floor. I'm currently sitting inside the car, so maybe you can kind of see wife's over there. She's shaking up another rattle can for me. While I got room down here, because the floor being here and I can sit here, I'm going to try to hit, even though this is all pretty good, I just want to help preserve this, and they never really painted a whole lot underneath here. As you can tell, some of the surface rust. I kind of hit it with a little wire brush. Probably won't be able to see much down in here. I might see if I can set up the camera. Actually, no, I'm not going to set the camera up here because the paint spray is probably going to put on the lens. So, yeah, it'd be better if I didn't. But I'm going to put me a mask on, respirator type thing, and spray bomb the crap out of this all underneath here, just to help protect it while I'm here. And, yeah. It helped with some of the rattling and stuff. Something the factory didn't do, but I'm fine with that. I don't care. It's better for it. So, yeah. I'm going to do that, and I'll get back with y'all. Oh, hey, the battery's about dead. Alright, it's been a couple of days. I'm going to start on this tail panel a little bit. I'm going to do this little patch, little piece I cut out of another tail panel. And going to see where I can cut it from here and cut this piece out. And graft this one in. Alright. Alright, so what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to leave this part here that goes into the light, mainly because there's a bunch of spot welds there, and I don't really want to deal with it because it's a pain in the butt. But it may end up not working out that way. But here is where the molding kind of goes, and I can hide it here. So I can hide my cut here, and then I can kind of come down to here, and I can hide it down here a little bit. And it saves me a whole lot. And then I need it to kind of come up to here. And then I need it to come over here. But I think it may be a little bit easier for me to go like here, because I will have that cut lined. So kind of cut it something like this. And then I got a little bit of room down here. Probably what I'll do is follow this edge down to about here. And then I'm going to go straight up. A little bit over here, actually. Because a little bit right up there. A little bit up there. If I have to, I'll reuse this. I won't cut it off yet. But I am going to try to trim this up a little bit in here. So yeah, I'm going to see if I can do that. Probably have to pull you guys back so I don't hurt the camera anymore. I've dropped it so many times. And yeah, basically what I'm going to be doing, trying to get that to fit in there. I may have to use this inner piece of the that wraps in there. I just bent this one kind of a little bit to crap, and I don't really want to spot weld that if I don't have to. A bunch of it's going to be hidden there anyways because of the tail light. Yeah, it'll be alright. Alright, so where we last left off, I had finished up this part, placing it, and also this part here. Oop, on the frame. Got this part, not too bad. Welded up a bunch of pits along here. That's where that seam sealer was at. Cleaned up the back of the panel, made sure there wasn't any more that I found. And then sprayed it with this Rust-Oleum 2-in-1, kind of like a rubberized coating, but it's not really a rubberized coating. But it's like a thicker paint and a rust conversion. Seems to be lays out pretty good. I like it. Sprayed the crap out of that, which would help seal some of the seams up, which I'll have to come back and seam seal it. Before I put this floor pan in, which is I'm hoping to do this weekend, maybe. Hopefully, as long as everything goes well. I won't have a whole lot of time tonight. Just got off work and trying to get a little bit done. Well, there's some things going on here. One of the things I need to do to this car, I know it sounds strange for what it is, I need a trailer hitch, receiver hitch, even though it's not technically a receiver because it's not getting a receiver. Tow point. I need a tow point or something on this car for another project that I got to get done. Let me tell you, that's a pain in the butt trying to figure this out. One of the original ones I've seen, they use a flat bar, kind of like on the edge of this. And it goes about somewhere in here, runs across, tees back, and then actually comes up to the back of the bumper on a Charger, and you have to drill holes here. And I don't like that because these bumpers are not very strong. And I don't really want to ruin a bumper. Chin hit the microphone. Knocked it off. Put you over there. So, I didn't like that, and I don't have one of them. So that's number 2, because I can't find any. Aftermarket don't help you. Which, looking for a 69 Charger, because same design, so. And, well, next process was trying to make one. Well, here's the problem with this. I did have to use my other Charger as a reference. I did a bunch of this off camera because there was a bunch of thinking and wondering and pondering and a headache. My other Charger don't have rear exhaust, so, but it did have a gas tank in it, and I didn't want to pull the gas tank out for this car and get it all dented and scratched just to figure this out and constantly pull it in, pull it out, and I still don't have the floor, so it wouldn't even sit right in it. So, what I did is I got this piece off an old Dodge kind of RV, and that's like a back piece, and it just so happens that it matches the hole centers to the frame rail width, and it hangs down enough to miss the tank. Just barely, but it misses the tank. Then it has enough room for me to slide the exhaust along the frame and the tank, but it not be too close to the tank. It'd be about a factory setting where they have them at, I'm pretty sure. At least that's where this exhaust was. That's about sitting where it needs to be. And the reason why I want that back bar is to help stabilize. Let me get you guys down here. The reason why I have it in the position I do is it kind of shares this bracket that ties to the leaf spring, which is where I want the weight to transfer. It also keeps it narrow enough that it helps this, and it kind of hides a little bit more in the car. But there's also a bracket where it welds down here, so you got double metal here. And when you come back up here, you have this bracket that will help tie it together. And I can put a bolt, another washer, and weld the nut in it, and, kind of spot welded in that so it ain't moving around. Because I do want this to be pretty well easy removable. Same side on the other side, so it's in a nice strong point. And with this being a Daytona, you also get, you see those 2 holes there, which I'll have to re-drill them in the new pieces, but right there is also where it gets tied into the quarter panel. So it gets all tied in really good. So that's a good strong point for that. Well, I didn't want to have it all the way there and then have a tongue come all the way out here, because I also have that panel that comes up back here. Well, then you get back here. See if I can get this camera to sit down here with me. Well, you run into problem number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10. You have a fuel tank that sits here, and it butts all the way up to here, pretty much. It's little ears. Okay, well, you can dodge the tank. Well, you also got 2 exhaust pieces right here. One here and one over there. And they hang down. So bolting a receiver hitch that kind of hits here can't work, and a bar that goes all the way across like a typical receiver hitch won't work, and it will look ugly. I'm trying to do this for look somewhat. So that doesn't work either. And I entirely don't trust these two mounts, bolt mounts that hold these brackets for that. Oh, these brackets. These are like exhaust, frame, stiffener, factory brackets. And it's got the little welded nuts here, which are probably pretty strong, but not something I really want to tie a trailer hitch to over time. They could fatigue out. And these can potentially rip out easy. And then you can't just bolt a hitch here to this piece because I'm bending it by my hand. It's probably a lot harder this way, and of course I don't have the floor pan in it. But no, I'm sure it could probably take it, but I know that's going to be a stress point because there's a giant hole here. So eventually it would fatigue and crack a lot quicker. So, and then I can't buy anything that's close or within a reasonable price, and I don't want anything custom made or anything like that. So I'm making my own that's custom made. This piece is because I have it and it fits perfectly and it doesn't look bad underneath the other Charger, which it didn't have it hold drills or nothing, but took the jack under it and had enough for a hand clearance between here. I know this bar ain't going to give. I know if you use some of these flat bars, it may be a little bowy and I'd rather it be a little stronger. I don't want to cut that little piece off the bottom. And this obviously did work as a receiver hitch because it was only like a foot long, and then it had a kind of an angle bracket too, where I kind of got this design from, but it wouldn't work on this. Well, the other thing is the tank is angled, so you can't just take a bar and run it back straight because you're diving down. You're about hanging down with the tank here, and then it goes down to there. About an inch above that. Or half an inch. It ain't much. So that causes a problem. So then you're stuck with, you can't really mount anything here because you don't want to mess with the exhaust mounts. You don't really have anything solidly to mount to except for these frame rails. And then you got to worry about fuel, tank, exhaust. And it all becomes a pain in the butt, and I kind of want it to be kind of stock. And I don't want to build off the bumper brackets because you'll see the brackets from this point. Imagine that the panel is actually here. But you have your bumper, it goes here, and then you have the car here, the body. I don't want to cover any of that up. I don't want to drill holes in the bumper. I don't want to do any funky mounts that come off the back of that. And plus, in my opinion, the bumper mounts on these are not that strong to really want to be pulling off of. Because it kind of has to go to these boxes. Now, if it was an earlier B body, like a Roadrunner, Cornet, or something like that, and you had the solid bumper, oh yeah, I would bolt it up directly into this because it uses these mounts. But you can't grab anything here because that panel rolls here. So it covers this all up, not just the bumper being kind of hidden there. So that messes it up on a Charger. Well, so my next thought was 3/16 2-inch steel angle iron. I know I may get a little bit of flack of this for doing this, but what I'm going to do is put this angle iron here. I'm not going to be able to do this one-handed, so let me set this up on the tripod so you guys can see a little bit. Alright, I got you guys set up. So I got the angle iron. I wish it was a little bit longer, but Home Depot didn't have that. And my supply place is a little bit too far away. And I can make this work. Here's why I wanted a little bit longer. This is a 4-foot piece of, it's a 2x2 by 3/16 thick angle iron. Should be plenty strong enough. Heck, the plate that was with the RV, that had a big plate welded up on the bottom of that, and had basically like a giant trapezoid angle iron piece like this, but it wasn't as long, held the main force of the back. So that does mostly up force, this does mostly down force, and then they both share the forward and back force. But the inside center of these frame rails is 35.5 inches. I was hoping to have a little bit longer, but I think this is long enough. I can add a little bit on the bottom of this. And I should have some steel just to add, heck, a washer welded onto the end of it. Because there's 2 factory holes here where that finger is. Another one equal over here where the shock brackets here on the bottom side go there and they bolt to this. That's why I went a little bit longer. This may not be exactly centered. And a couple things I can note. I'll need to trim this off a little bit shorter here and here. So that way, and bend this little bottom part up, which this, if you didn't know why this hole's here, this is the same part number for a regular B-body, like a Roadrunner, Cornet, and all that. Their fuel tanks come up behind the license plate. They use the same part for this. Charger has it, it just all gets covered up. Then they don't use it. But basically, I'll take this angle iron, 2 inches by the way where I got this measurement, is because 2 inches is how much gap I had between the back of this to the tank. And I might have to do a little bit of notching for the tank, but it should be plenty of room. It's kind of tight to begin with, but it should be equivalent to it. This is like, I don't know, it's not exactly sheet metal. It's not as thick as the frame rails, but it's not as thin as this, as the sheet metal body of the car. It's like a middle. I don't know what gauge it is. But my idea is, if I put this here, the back bolt here that run into that bracket that bolts into the frame that sandwiches the bottom of this cross member, I can drill one and put it there, and drill one and put it there. That will tie that in. If I had the little extension, I can also put them here. And that may get changed or whatever. But I can put those in, and that would help a little bit. Then you have 2 holes about right in here. One on this side and equivalent to this side, that the little bull bars from the bumper go down to and bolt to, that bolt to this too. That's where it actually screws into, and then everything gets sandwiched. Well, now this would get sandwiched into that. Well, then, once I get it bent and this little piece trimmed off, which isn't going to harm anything at all, not taking this plate off, but just trimming it, so this fits nice and flush, and bending the bottom because it's a little rocky from the fuel tank bolt thing, which again, this does not use, so it's just there. I put that like that. I can bolt it in, and I'll clamp it up and everything. Of course, I'll sand this, paint the inside of this so it don't rust with this coating. Kind of clean up some of these little spot welds. And I'll stitch weld it along this back side and this flange side across here. And I may have to come back and trim a little bit here for the tank, but it's not even maybe a 1/16 of an inch. It's not much. And that would just make it equivalent to this. There's 2 ears back here that the straps rest against, and that's what it would be up against. Anyways, the straps, not the tank. But it's basically the way the regular body of the car is. But with me doing that, this allows me to have a tie-in to the frame rails, and it keeps a nice solid piece here and beefs this up. At that point, I can tie another little angle iron and flip it like this to the top of this hitch. And I got to build this hitch a little bit more, but I have this piece, and it is a forged piece. This is part of an actual hitch. Flip it upside down where it sits like that, because my license plate's going to be about here-ish. Actually, it's going to sit about here, because the license plate sits about right here. It'll stick out enough, about there on height. Have that angle iron, and then that angle iron that I weld to this will bolt to the bottom of this, which will also run through this, and it is welded to this. So this is getting strengthened, and this is taking most of this brunt. and it'll get bolted to here by a longer piece here and here, where I can go through this thicker spot, these two ears right here and here. So it'll be about a piece like that long, bolt, and maybe a bolt here, just the heck of it, because that's where it's going to be right there, because that is the center. And this bolt will be right directly there. So I'll probably do 3 bolts. It just won't get into this too much. These have good little tabs built onto it. But I'm going to go through this too, and that's the length of the tab. So it's going to have plenty of meat to grab that. This is mainly doing a bunch of this hitch support. And with the push forward and back, you're still getting the strength here because it's 2 inch by 2 inch. And you're also getting the tie-in of back here. That way, when you put a load on it, you got your downforce covered here. I also probably cut me a U-bolt, weld it to the bottom, and then weld it to the back of the angle iron on top of this. Kind of locks it in a little bit better. This is my other piece of this. I'm doing this with scraps that I have. I'm not buying a bunch of steel. These are forged, so they're a little bit harder. May have to do some real good welding and then plate the side of this. Get this welded, and this will tie in to this at an angle, to this at that angle, and it's going to sit a little bit further back, but basically like this. So when it puts a down load on it, and this is all welded, it can't lift up. And it's going to be tied to this piece. And then, you might be thinking, well, you're putting this, it's going to hurt this panel that goes over here. It does not, because this does not sit exactly flush on this bottom. There's actually a little gap, and they got bent, kind of bent upward. So actually, with this being there, with the factory panel, I would have to straighten it out, and it would be flush then. So to kind of tighten up that gap, which a gap that you'd never see, and it wouldn't affect anything with this piece. It just kind of close up the gap more, because they only had like 2 to 3 spot welds on this entire bottom half. It doesn't get spot welded here, it gets spot welded across here and up. But there's only like 3 spot welds along this bottom that I had to drill out. One wasn't even a spot weld, it was like a little weld on this side. They just gave up on it. But that will tie everything in and beef it up. I don't plan on towing another car with this. Maybe a light duty trailer hauling a 440 or something like that, you know. I definitely want to handle some weight, but nothing big like a car hauler. I don't plan on doing anything like that. Wouldn't mind it if I had to. You know, I'd like to build it to be able to handle it. But I want this to be removable and kind of hidden. The worst part about this is I have this big square tubing down here, but I would rather have that, and it doesn't really hang down that low compared to my other Charger, the way it's set, because where the leaf springs were, and I have longer shackles on it, they hung down more than what that was. And I had the shackle in the middle position. This is getting the factory, so this is going to show up as the very bottom, but it's going to be about even with the leaf spring when it's there. The leaf springs on my car are completely flat and bow upwards or roar completely out. That's why I have the extension shackles, which make it ride at the original ride height. But I was using that car as a guide. And then I checked my exhaust because it sits about somewhere like there. And of course I can't do this with 2 hands, but it actually sits more about where my arm is, but I can't get it up and angled, lifting it up. And it shows it to work right. If not, I'll configure that later. But I wanted to get this welded in, or at least get this figured out, and this is what I got to. But I wanted, the main thing is, when you're looking at the car from the back, the only thing you're going to see is this little piece, a little angle iron piece, underneath the car, and then maybe that tubing in the back. But if I paint it black, you won't hardly see it. And back here, all you're going to see is the ball. And it'll be a little bit lower than the license plate. So it should be not in the view of the license plate. So it should be all right. And if I ever want to remove it, you can unbolt it here. And you can unbolt it there. So 5 bolts. This thing drops down. I'll have to weld the nuts probably to the back of this. So that way the bolts don't hang down. And the nuts hold in its spots. And that's all you see. So it's very well hidden. It's easy to remove if I don't want it later on. I decide, no, I don't like the way it's just tired of seeing it. I can remove it. It doesn't affect the bumper. It's the strongest way I know how to do it as far as getting it clean looking and not messed up. I was just trying to figure out a plan while I was here, and it was all open to me. And I was able to have my other car, which is also a Charger, to be able to kind of get a rough idea, which it's all messed up back here anyways, but it gave me more of an idea with a tank in it. It just made it a little bit easier for me to do it that way. But that's kind of my plan. So I'm going to end up bending the bottom of this up, maybe cutting 2 reliefs in it, just that way I'm not disorienting this too much. I'll have to mark where I need to cut here. Cut the bottom of these plates off, and I'm going to weld that bar, the angle iron on the bottom of that, and get all my holes drilled before I weld it. And that way, whenever I'm ready, I can do it that way. Another thing is when I put the floor pan in, I'll measure my holes up here inside, and I'll put 2 body plugs there so that way I can access to put a nut in. Or a bolt. Just back here by the license plate, I can't do that. But up here, I could either put a bolt in and then a nut. If I wanted to do that way, just feed it in with a magnet and then you just put the body plugs back on so it looks hidden. Plus, you're going to have stuff trunk anyway, so. But that's kind of my idea of putting a hitch on this thing. I do need it for this car, for the plans and everything on it. So, that's kind of my idea, and I think this is going to be strong enough to be able to handle everything I need. Just that little tongue piece is rated for 2,000 pounds. If I can get half of that, I'm still doing good. And I do know that piece is strong because I tried bending it, and it did not work. And the other one was part of a receiver hitch on the back of an RV, so it was definitely beefy enough for it, if not too beefy. But I didn't want it to bend, because I have seen some of them bend right there and hit the bottom of the tank. Because you're talking about like 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch room between that. So I'd rather deal with the thicker tubing being a little bit stronger there instead of it doing the other way. And it's what I got. The only piece I've had to buy so far is this angle iron, because I've used up what little pieces I've had and didn't have anything long enough. And I may extend this one just to help a little bit more. It's just an extra little piece of mine just to tie it in. That way, in case it ever did try to break these nuts, these little weld nuts in the bottom of these frame rails, it'd be good. And doing it this way, if I modify this back little tab down just a little bit, I can still put these on and it will all be still the same. Doesn't get in the way of nothing. I just have to bend this down, and it may still even bolt up anyways, but it's all I'd have to do is just make it to where this little gap is tweaked a little bit more down. That's my kind of a plan. I don't think I'll get to that tonight, but just kind of giving you guys a little bit of an idea on that. Alright, so we're back again. I got this kind of clamped on. I got to get this tow hitch really figured out before I put the floor in, because I'm going to have to weld some inserts and stuff. That way I can get to the nut and everything underneath. Well, the bolt and everything in. So where these two washers are is where I need to drill a hole. I put another one in the middle, but it is going to get halfway onto that, and it'll be a smaller bolt. Those washers fit real good, so that'll work, and it'll give it more of an area to bite on the sandwich on the back. But it'll be welded to it too, so just kind of a little bit extra. And then inside the frame, I'll probably do something like this. Kind of a thick piece of steel that goes inside the frame and it sandwiches, and I'll probably spot weld it and put the nut on it and weld it, but I'll probably put the nut on it, weld it first. That way they kind of stay still in the frame. Also probably drill a hole in the floor pan anyways and put a body plug there, because the new panel is missing a set anyways, but I can put a set back here and it won't hurt anything. I should have the body plug anyways. But I need to get this set up and kind of figured out and tacked together pretty much now before I put the floor pan on. But it'll be a lot less headache later on. So, yeah, that's what I'm pretty much going to be doing and getting that all set up. Probably have to run town. I'm thinking a cap nut may be a little bit better, but I'll see what I got. Yeah, I'm going to get this back piece kind of figured out. Make sure it's square and then figure out some pieces to run the angle iron to run here and get that about right. And make sure, and then I'll start drilling my holes and cleaning what I need to clean to get everything figured out. I'm going to get on that. Alright, so I'll show you guys some of the progress. This is on my other car at the current moment. Oh, and this is kind of what it looks like. This could go up a little bit more because there's pieces holding it down on this car. But if you look under here, it's just kind of set up in it. It's not bolted on or anything. So I got my strongest point here. You guys can see mounts there right on that bracket. It'll get transferred to this, so that's the biggest strength. And there's also a cross brace on the inside, and I have a hole in this frame rail. But there's plenty of room. That's the gas tank for expansion for whenever it heats up and they go balloon out a little bit. All the way up. Plenty of room. Which again, I'm going to lose a 1/4 inch here. And then the hitch is about level with this car. Even though it has the extended shackles, these springs are completely shot. But yeah. Kind of using this as a reference tank to get around the gas tank instead of taking the new tank and trying to get in there. Get some rocks in here. Yeah. Don't stick out too far. Yeah. If you look at it from here, really the ball only sticks out that much from the bumper. So, like that. So it ain't too bad. And I'll do some gusseting and stuff. I just want to get it kind of tacked together so that way I can do any adjustments I can later. Now, with the floor pan being out, this is the time for me to do some special bracing and stuff. I got me some flange nuts and bolts, and the nuts are also locking nut. Not the nylon, but the metal style. Or I guess they mess up the threads a little bit to get it to go in. But right where this hole is going to be down here that I've already drilled, I am going to put these plates in about like that. About 16th gauge steel or something like that. Cut it to the fit inside the frame. Sits in there. And I'll probably end up tacking those. Same thing over here. And fully welding that nut on it to help. That way it can stay stable in there. Then, think about just running a self-tappet for now in the bottom just to hold these still. May not even weld it. May just run me a couple little bolts or something small. Or just leave the self-tappers in it. And honestly, that will probably do it very well for a long time. Just to hold these plates in place if I ever take it out. That's all it would do. For putting it in, taking it out, just hold it in place. And it's done. The back, got the holes drilled here. I need to drill another one here, a smaller one. Just that way I can sandwich through that. I got a small one of those bolts. But back here, I think I'm just going to put a washer and just tack the washers in with a flange bolt. Again, probably weld this to the flange nut. Heck, I probably don't even have to have the washer, but it would maybe help a little bit of sandwiching the material. Put the washer on it, tack it, flange nut. Actually, you know what? I may just weld the flange nut to it and call it good. I'll see what it looks like. That's pretty much how it bolts on. Figure that's probably the best strength of it. Probably going to get them self-tapped. That way they're there. And then we'll clamp it, then self-tap it. And then drill the holes through the bottom. That way I can line up the nut, weld the nut on, paint them, put them back on. And then those are done. And then I can move to the back here and figure out what I'm going to do with it. Get the nuts welded. Because once I get the tank on, I can't get to them. I don't want to pull the tank out. Well, you have to have these welded in because you can't get behind there because of the tank. You can't put the tank in because the hitch is in. So I got to weld them. Worst case, I guess if one of these bolts break, like the nuts break on the nut or the weld and everything, so it just turns on the inside. I guess I just cut the head of the bolt off and be done with it. But hopefully it don't come to that, and it is removable. So yeah. So I'm gonna be doing, getting those plates in and getting them all set up in the back here, and then hopefully tomorrow, since I got that tacked up, I'll wait till the car is all set and get it all pretty much set up to ride height, and we'll see how it's gonna look. If I need to raise it, lower it, or whatever, I can do it later, and it won't be a problem. But after I get the hitch, hopefully tomorrow. Oh, I still gotta weld that brace on the back here. I gotta do that. That'll be doing that tonight. And then hopefully tomorrow I can put this floor pan in. Getting ready to do that. And then go from there. But yeah, just want to kind of give you guys a little update. Alright. So I was getting this all welded up. And I already started welding. And then I realized I forgot to drill the hole that goes to that. So there, I don't know if you guys see it. There's supposed to be a hole that goes all the way there. Forgot to drill them. I stapled them, or not stapled them, but punched them to mark the center. Yeah, I forgot to do that. So, I guess I'm going to take a drill with a smaller drill bit, drill it out through the top, then come back in through the bottom with the 1/2 inch, or whatever size I need to look at, and drill it from the bottom, and hopefully I don't hit the threads. So, I'm going to do that, and then I'll go back to welding. Here, I'll let you guys know. Alright. So, got it all pretty much welded on. I did paint it black. So it's going to be a little bit harder to see. But you guys can probably see the welds from here. You can see the stitched it pretty good. There was an afterthought to this. Maybe my battery won't die. If not, I'll have to redo this. Might have another battery somewhere. So you see this little plate that I welded on? That I didn't realize, but I didn't really have a good way of mounting to the frame rail, tying to it. Well, that frame rail comes back here and it mounts, has a little flange in the back behind here. It extends out and goes to that bumper bolt that would have been on a regular B body, because this is the same part as a Roadrunner or whatever, and this is the actual bumper bolts, is here and here. And that ties into this piece, and that ties here, and there's also one here, and then you get the one down here. Which I did do that, so it's bolted on, and then bolts here. This is kind of sandwiched, but it works good because it actually presses everything up tighter, I think. Kind of pulls it up, so hopefully that works out. A little bit more weld here too. I did that on both sides, so that should pull it tight. Not meant to come loose, but it's bolted and it sandwiches everything together. This thing should be plenty of strong to do what I want to do with it, and it shouldn't be in a high stress area. That was my one problem of just putting a thing here or running it off the bumper bolts, because I was afraid this thing was just going to keep flexing and break, which eventually this probably could too, but it's not that flexible. So it should be a lot better. Welded along this bottom edge, welded inside that hole, because I figured that would be a weak link. Again, that stuff's not used on our Charger. It's just the same stamping as this, like my dad's Roadrunner back over there. Same exact frame rail, same exact back piece, except they actually use that because of the way the bumpers are placed. Charger, they raise the bumper up, so that's when these come along. Those is what actually ties the bumper to the frame. It's above the floor. This one, and these are kind of set up for under. Same thing. It's just the same stamping, so they just use same parts. But yeah, got it all painted up, and I got my little sandwich brackets in here. I got to put those brackets on. I got to paint them, put them on, but I can do that later. It's not a big deal at the moment. I'm probably going to have to get a little bit longer bolt now because of that, which won't be a bad thing. I just have to get some more of those. Then do a final cleaning inside the frame rails, get all this dust out. And then we are ready to pretty much install this floor. So maybe try and do that tomorrow. Scuff up the bottom for the undercoating, be easier to put on. And then kind of sand those little burrs down. And then that will be ready to go in and put all together. But yeah, I think that'll be it for tonight. And hopefully the strength will go in. I think the video is probably getting pretty close to the end. I need to edit it. I haven't gotten to this one yet. But yeah, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Alright. Hopefully this works. I might put my microphone on the camera, so that way the microphone's in front of me. So hopefully the audio's okay. I'll find out. Had to clamp shop a little bit so that way I can get around and move around and everything. Gonna get a bunch of these burrs off by hitting with a my little angle grinder and these little scuff pad things, just to hit it and go over it. Then I'm gonna scuff it the way I scuff it, is I found these little scuffing brushes at Walmart. I think it works pretty good. I'm gonna scuff this top side, get the stickers off as much as possible. Then we'll flip it over and scuff the underneath. So that way, whenever I get ready, I can hit it with the undercoating underneath. And it should stick a little bit better. The inside I might use a harder undercoating, like a cheap Harbor Freight one that I still have left over. The underneath I'm going to go with a softer style. Let's just protect it, pretty much. Yeah. And then once we do that, we can set it in. I may have to do a little bit of patching to that wheel well, but I think I can do that later. And it won't be as bad. I'm sure I'm going to go through there and drill the holes once I get it on and clamped in place and everything. I'll drill the holes then and just weld it from the wheel well side. Yeah. Get this kind of scuffed down so I ain't got to do it later. Get the stickers off while it's out. And then sheet metal screw it back in where I had it to reline it. And then start slowly welding it in. It's going to be probably an all-day thing, but it'll be done. And one step closer. So I want to get doing that, and I'll see y'all whenever I get back with you. So I've been welding for like, let's see here. 3-4 hours, pretty much. And, yeah, it's a little rough. Especially bending over the tail panel and crawling in through the front side because you don't really want to lay on all the weld that you. A little toasty. But, not looking too bad. Only heard a couple of them break loose whenever you weld it and cools down. You hear a pop. I only heard about 3 times, so not too bad. I did miss a hole here. Well, I missed the beam. It actually needs to be about half an inch up. Over here, I missed my crossbar piece. Missed that hole. Barely missed that hole. I think it's got to go here, and I think it's got to go here. I think is the way it went. So I have to re-drill them. But I got all the plug welds pretty much set for this end one, but that's because of a piece. I probably shouldn't have done that one, but I can fix that later. What I need to do now is I need to pull my screws out, and I'm going to go ahead and hit it with a bigger bit. Just the top layer, so then basically it's a plug weld. And then weld them up. And then I got to weld my seam across the back. One thing I didn't show y'all, which I had did before I did all the welding, is I went in here and sheet metal screwed my, which I had to repair a little bit of this, but I got my wheel wells screwed in, clamped in. I just kind of kept clamping, screw it, clamp, screw, clamp, screw. Kind of walked it across and let it stretch. Kind of cracked the undercoating, so I have to clean that up. Not a big deal. But I kind of left it, did the same thing to the other side. Just kind of slowly left it. Basically, it just went off of where it felt nice and comfortable and where the stock pieces kind of landed too. Which I'll be changing those out, so be close enough. Everything seemed to fit level and it fits good. So, floor pans pretty well snugged up. I just got to do the back welding. I'm going to do that from the... Either going to do that from 2 ways. I'm either going to weld it from me being on the inside, or I'm going to crawl in and do it from here. But I want to get all these screws kind of knocked down first. Had to fight with the little bracket, gas tank brackets to get them. Had to keep screwing it in just to get it all suck up tight to it, to the floor pan. Everything else was pretty well good. But yeah. Gonna pull these screws out, drill them out a little bit, and probably remove this hole up, and then see if I can find that little cross piece there. I caught it on this side pretty good. It's just that side I missed. So I'll do that, and I think, yeah. Other than that, doing pretty good. I gotta clean off my well, I need to clean these welds up mainly back here, so that way I can put my little trunk latch piece back on. Paint the back side of that, kind of hit it with a wire brush, straightened up a little bit, get it all cleaned up. Need to tell the factory did not paint anything, so putting something on it will make it last a whole lot longer. So yeah. Then I gotta put my little brackets on. I'd like to put the brackets for the spare tire. I'll have to make a bottom piece for it. Kind of getting later stuff to do. But yeah, just slow process. Oh, it'll make your shoulders hurt and your neck. But I'm getting it done. This is why pretty much nobody likes to do the floor pans and all that stuff. It ain't too bad, but this one's a particularly worse because the trunk's kind of a pain in the butt because you have this. You have that shorter, and the inside is just rough too. It's not easy crawling in and out of. I'm a pretty small guy, but it's still rough. Alright, well I'm going to take those screws out, drill them out, and then while I got the drill hooked up, I will figure out where those holes are and then start welding it all up. And then I'll probably do the seam weld depending on how I feel. So yeah, get back to it. Alright, maybe you can hear me over the rain that's going on outside. Plug welds are all done, screws are all pulled out, drilled, replugged, plug weld. Welded up the back. Got a little bit quick with it, but if it warps, you're never gonna even know, and it's not bad. Didn't do it real quick, but I did kind of stitch it along. But it looks pretty good. I didn't do the edge of the wheel well over here or over here, and I didn't weld the the inner wheel wells in yet. They're still sheet metal screwed in. I'm gonna wait until I do these inner panels and do all that, so that way if I gotta do a little bit of maneuvering or anything, I can still do a little bit of that. But mostly where I welded it's gonna be where it's gonna be at, and then I'll go from the other one to this one. But yeah. Well, since it's raining real hard, I guess I'm gonna pull out the grinder and start knocking them down. Probably not gonna go perfectly flat with it, but I am gonna probably knock them down to where it's not as fillable, especially that back edge. Kind of blend it all in nice and good. So yeah, I'm gonna do that real quick. This probably won't be much of a talkative video or really a demonstration, but as far as these plug welds go, once you have the hole re-drilled, I have this little tiny bit, burger bit type thing on the end of this. Go in there and clean the paint area off inside the hole. Then I took the welder, which I have 25 wire. I could have done it with 35, probably been better. I cranked it up all the way to the second highest setting and cranked my wire up pretty good. And I don't do like I guess these are called like a rose weld or whatever the actual name is. I do mine a little bit different. I kind of start on the outside, and then I kind of like work like this and the zigzag through the middle. That way I know when it gets really hot, that way I'm really burning it into that thicker piece, and then I'll kind of S it out. I don't exactly just start from the center and then work my way out. I kind of start from the outside, heat up the center, and at the very last, I just kind of close up the other end of the hole that you drill. So it seems to work a little bit better. That's the way I've always done it. And you kind of do them sporadically. I was doing like a here, kind of matching the same one on both sides, jumping back and forth. And I'm just kind of evening out the heat a little bit and letting it cool down. And I just kept hitting one, trying to copying, mirroring the other side pretty much. Then I'd every once in a while jump in the middle and do the middle one, start with it, and then work my way out. I left my welded edge last, so that way that one would tighten everything up, so that way I don't have any tinniness. So here that piece is solid. It's not real nice and solid. That's why I did that weld last, because that was a little bit not as solid. But whenever you do that last weld there, which is why I was giving a little bit more heat, so that way we kind of pull and tighten everything up a little bit. Not a whole lot of heat, but I was still kind of spreading it out. But I could feel it tightening up when I was laying in there. Get it right where it pop and let it kind of cool down a little bit, and then just kind of easing. So yeah, I'm gonna get a rubber grinder and just start grinding it down. All right, maybe you can hear me. Ugh. Got it all grinded down. And it's not like, perfectly flat, but it's no bumps or anything really. Um, Got it all the way. I grinded that down a little bit more smooth looking. You'll hardly ever tell it once I put that rubberized seal and then uh some like undercoating. I think is what I'm gonna do on the inside, like a little bit harder undercoating, not a rubberized bed liner kind of. That should seal it up pretty good and make it pretty durable. All right, I'm gonna call it a night. Take me a shower and get all those metal shavings and everything off of me. Uh, I don't know. I need to check. This might be the end of the video for this one. I know this is probably just more time lapse of a video. It's just hard to show anything. It's hard to get in and out of this thing. Of course, with this camera, I can't really show very well on some of that, so it'd be hard for me to do anything like that. But I just grinded it down with the grinder. Bought one of them because my little older trusty Ryobi little lightweight grinder finally croaked after I don't know how many years, and it was refurbished. Got that. It was on sale. Seems to be all right, except it all that went through pretty much all my batteries, and I got four 5 amps. No, I do have four. I just don't. I only have three down here. 3 5 amps and 1 8 amp. The two of the 5 amps were on drill for a little bit. Not real heavy, but. And then the 8 amp was fully charged, and I still haven't completely blowed through it, but it was pretty close whenever I used my blower. I like the Harbor Freight stuff. It's pretty easy for me. Just go down there and get it, and it's not going to break the bank. But I always wanted one of the battery ones, and honestly, that one's not too bad. So, not too bad. not real heavy either. So it's kind of like good in areas like this. It was kind of nice. All right, I'm gonna wait till my air compressor kicks off so that way I can shut the valve. I'm gonna wait. But yeah, this is the end of the video. Just want to say thank you guys for watching, and hopefully get in more a little bit where you can see finally maybe getting out of the trunk a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. If not, I'm just cutting this out and you'll never see it. So yeah, thank you for watching, and see y'all next time.